What's the deal, YouTube? It's your girl, Miss Honey. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's your girl, Miss Honey. Happy Saturday. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. You guys already know what we're here for. Iyanla Fix My Life. This was a really, really good episode. The episode was entitled Broken Reality, which I guess was pretty appropriate on several different fronts. Of course, it's about Malorie Bailey Massey, who is the little sister of Cynthia Bailey, which that kind of shocked me. I don't know why I always thought Malorie was the older sibling. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think. Before we get going really good, go ahead and if you feel comfortable, subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you. You certainly are welcome here. You can hit that little bell right next to it if you want to be alerted whenever I put videos up. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Of course, everybody, let's talk about it down below, okay? Even if you don't subscribe, you got something you want to say, drop it down below. Listen, let's talk about it. This was a good episode, and I'm going to go ahead and say, I'll wait to the end. I hope I don't forget. But let me just say, because I'll probably forget. I saw a lot of myself in Malorie. I did. I saw a lot of myself in Malorie. Like, not everything, but some of the things that other people were saying about her, I could certainly hear that coming from, my sister, maybe my mom. Maybe if I had a daughter, certainly my niece, like, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I think one of the greatest things you can do as you move through this life, take this journey, is try to get better. How you gonna get better if you don't recognize where you've fallen short? Do you know what I mean? But anyway, let's talk about this episode again. Broken Reality. And episode opens with Malorie talking to, of course, Iyanla, and she looks beautiful. I mean, she's got this reddish brown, blonde reddish, brown blondish type hair. It's not, this thick hair. It's thinned in the front. It looks like it could grow out of her head. Like, I mean, whoever set those wefts, or if that's a unit, like, it's beautifully done. It looks very, very realistic. The color is beautiful on her skin. I see that her and Cynthia share some of the same color palettes when it comes to hair and units. So it's really pretty. She looks very pulled together. She's got this beautiful dark copper type lip. And one of the things you notice as you watch this episode is that Malorie really doesn't open her mouth to talk. Like, what she says kind of slips out. It's quick. It's very deliberate. You know what I'm saying? It's very pointed. It's very pointed. She's not an individual that seems to talk with vagueness. I don't, we didn't get to see a lot of conversational things going on between her and her sister, or her and her mom, or her and her daughter. It was just Iyanla asking her questions and her answering them. And you can tell right up front that Malorie has all of her belongings, all of her things right here next to her, so she don't lose nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, she is woo. First half, you got zero facial expression. Like, some of the stuff Iyanla was saying, and she was just absorbing it. Like, I'm saying, like, Iyanla would hit it and she would take the ball. Like, she would absorb it. I mean, and no ripples, baby. No ripples. That's odd. That is odd. That she just, it's the sign of a very controlled individual. Like, facial expression and body language is one of the #1 ways you tell people that you are not comfortable. Of course, the second way, I guess, would be communicating. But if you see a person from across the room and you're not talking to them, my point, you can tell if they're angry, tell if they're uncomfortable, tell if they're cold. Like with her, she was very, very, very pulled together. Like I said, she had it all neatly packed in, nicely tight, nothing out of place. Like boom, bam, boom. You won't catch me slipping, right? And let me just say, prior to this, our experience with Cynthia was her coming on the show. She was talking about her husband here and there, just mentioning him coming home because he played overseas. There was some scuttlebutt about her not necessarily being happy in her marriage. It wasn't this last season. It may have been the season prior or 2 seasons prior to this last season. And we also remember Malorie more famously for the day that Cynthia was getting married and she couldn't find her marriage license. And her mom had the marriage license. And the mom wanted to know what they should do. And Malorie was saying, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe we shouldn't give it to her. Like, they didn't want her to marry Peter. I think Peter's problem was that he's a hoper and a dreamer, and it was all on Cynthia's dime. So, the way they were acting was like it would be life or death. Like we shouldn't tell her. So seeing those things on Real Housewives of Atlanta, I did get a certain perception of who Malorie was. I thought Malorie was the oldest. I did. It just seemed like she was. It seemed like, she had a lot to say to Cynthia about what Cynthia was doing, but now you see her sitting on this couch across from Iyanla. And you can just see little small snippets outside of her demeanor, little small snippets of her being controlling. Just from this first interview with Iyanla, this first sit down, she starts out by talking about him. We find out that she was 35 when she married him. He was 27. They had only known each other 2.5 months. They've been married 12 years. They're getting divorced now. The divorce was at her behest. We learned that Chris has been gone for 5 months. And he has not called her. She said he's emailed her a couple of times, which was probably in response to her divorce, wanting a divorce. He probably was responding to that. But phone calls, face to face, she has not seen him in 5 months, and he will not return her phone calls. He will not call her back. All right. She says she's hurt, and she's hurt also for her daughter. We're gonna talk about her daughter Madison in a bit. But so she's talking about him, what he's done and some of the things that they can change to do better. As they go on, and we realized that they had a final argument, and she said some things that her daughter even said could be considered below the belt. She didn't say that about that argument, but she said it in general, that her mom tends to get upset and say things to Chris that's below the belt. Now, she really didn't say a lot about the things that he do wrong, other than saying that their communication needed to be worked on. So Iyanla asks her about herself. Like, you're talking about him, what about you? And she says, that she liked the idea of saying my husband and he's saying my wife, and just having that other person there to take care of you and to be there. She likes to be in a relationship with somebody, and Cynthia acknowledges that when Iyanla has a one-on-one with Cynthia and the mom, that she likes to be taken care of. She doesn't like to be alone. She doesn't like the thought of being alone. So that's another reason why I'm like, I wonder why Malorie went so hard in the paint with Cynthia, and she had her own bull crap going on. Like, maybe she was trying to low-key warn Cynthia and say, this ain't what you want. Like, this is how it's going to turn out. It just seemed like in this episode of Iyanla Fix My Life, it's being portrayed that Cynthia was sort of the one that was in charge, which I can kind of see it from this episode. But on Real Housewives of Atlanta, it just seems like she was really depending on Mal a lot, conversation with Mal a lot. So I'm just putting that out there, okay? She does admit, like I said, in their last argument, saying something really, really cutting to him that was below the belt, and have not seen or heard from him since. Now, it kind of seems like Chris is the victim when you look at everyone else's perspective. But Iyanla is not portraying him as the victim. She is giving Chris, putting that mirror up to Mallory's face where Chris is concerned, like, how dare he? How dare he? How dare he? Now, they don't have any children together, but when they got together, her daughter Madison, who's by another man, was 10 or 11. So Madison, Mallory's daughter, considers him to be like a dad to her. So, even her perception was that mom is a little biting. She really didn't have anything unkind to say about Chris. Nobody did. But again, we learn really, really quickly as things go on. I won't even say really, really quickly. Eventually, we learn that this has nothing to do with Chris. This is all about Mallory and her choices, things that she has done to control situations. She says that she likes to head things off at the pass. She conceded something. It has the potential to be a problem, and she likes to go ahead and fix it and take care of it. I'm the same way. Like, I'm not the person, if you say that stove is hot, I'm the person that gets a pot holder and turns that handle to the back so nobody else will touch it. Like, let's just take it off the table. That's me. Okay. And it seems helpful until you're trying to tell somebody else this is how it's done and this is the only way that it's done. Then we see the controlling side of it, right? Like, it's something that has to be checked. You feeling like you know the best way for other people to do things and say and go and be is a form of controlling behavior. I acknowledge that. I do. I acknowledge that. Okay. When she met him, she saw that he had potential. And Iyanla said, well, what does that mean? And she says, for her, potential means almost, but not quite. And Iyanla's perspective of what potential means is you ain't doing nothing right now. It seems more hopeful. It seems like a journey one may want to see if they want to undertake from Mallory's perspective. From Iyanla's perspective, it seems like you're not what I want right now, or you're not where you need to be right now. It really is about what an individual wants from that person who has potential. If you want more for that person, and you're helping that person, you're instructing that person, or you're advising that person, you hold a mirror to their face and say, listen, you got to get your butt in gear and get some things done. It does have the potential to be great. You have the potential to be great, but you got to get out of this place where you stuck. Okay, from Mallory's perspective, it's like, if I just pour into you everything that I have into me, then you're gonna be a superstar. Like, you're gonna be great. Like, everything's gonna be Gucci. But you admit out of your own mouth that he takes care of you. Your daughter says that he took her on as his daughter and provided for you guys, bought her a car, put her through college. She's 25 now. So I don't know. I mean, I guess she feels like what she's given has been more emotional because she wants it to be a visual masterpiece. You can see it in her own look. She wants things to look good and be good, like my husband. Like, she put it together real perfect, like. And whatever he's doing and whatever he's saying and whatever is going on with him is breaking that up for her. Okay. At the same time, I don't know. They're still saying that she has gold digger potential. So you see why I'm tossing and turning, because I'm just like, he has potential, but she's a gold digger. Okay? She's controlling, but he's the one with the money. I don't know. I think it was hard for me first scene, second scene to really figure it out until we got to the last scene. And I started getting some emotion from Malorie. Second to last scene, I started getting emotion from Malorie and just this relaxation in her face, like in her demeanor, in her shoulders. Like once she started admitting things, and she was broken in that place of constantly wanting to talk about him, constantly wanting to portray it as though maybe I did these three specific things. You know, she mentioned them separately. You know, I feel like I did this and he would have. And Iyanla was like, no, no, no. We're back to talking about him. What about you? And she did this exercise with her the second day where she had these three buckets, and the three buckets were being, doing, having. And of course, most of the balls went into having. And I think after a while, you could see it kind of click for her. She had a lot in that having bucket. She had a few things in the doing bucket, which was really no effort at all. Turns out she has a hair company, a hair extension company, and they occasionally give hair away to cancer victims. But that's not actual physical helping, volunteering, going to do collect. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of helping by proxy, and you kind of tax write it off. So, I not to belittle it, I'm just saying her doing bucket had very little in it. And then they had the being bucket, you know, being at peace and being whole and feeling, you know, content. That bucket was empty. Okay. And she did talk about the fact that she felt like um, having a husband made her whole. And so Iyanla pointed out, so without him, you must feel. And she said incomplete. Again, this was when she was giving us Robot Malorie. And you know, it was something that she pointed out, that and the whole potential thing. Like, I don't, the way Iyanla said it made me feel like having potential was a bad thing. Like a dude may not be good enough, or a woman may not be good enough just because they have potential. I think it depends on you. You guys tell me what you think and what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the context? What's the context of this word potential? In her context, she saw somebody probably that had the potential to make a lot of money. Okay, and everything else, because she's 35 and he's 27, the polishing, the putting it all together, the making it picture perfect, and all of that, she is going to do. All right. So again, we talked to Madison. She's 25. Her perspective is that her and her mom and her dad don't have good communication. That her mom can be a little bit cutting, hit below the belt when they get into an argument, when her feelings get hurt. And Iyanla gives her this Malorie inventory, the same one she gives Cynthia and her mom and Malorie's mom. This Mal inventory, and she wants her to really reframe how she thinks about her mom and how she speaks about her mom. Like, have this conversation, but don't have it in this sort of accusatory way or labeling kind of way. Cynthia and their mom come in. She talks to them before she talks to Madison, and then they shared that Malorie will hide things, especially if she doesn't want to hear the truth. And then when you do confront her with the truth, she gets super, super defensive, and then she'll cut them off for a few months. I am guilty. I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it because I feel like I already worked out how I'm going to get this thing done in my head. So you don't see all the moving parts anyway. So I don't have time to explain all that to you. I know. I get it. I got a handle. Let's move on. You keep pressing me, I will put you on mute for a minute. That's not right. It's not right. First of all, people who really, really love you, who've proven that they really, really love you, and they're there for you, deserve the right to be heard out. Okay? You have to learn how to articulate why you're doing things and what your perspective is. And you got to be willing to hear people out. And all sense ain't in one head. So this is another thing that I can see myself in her. It's something that I work on all the time, because when you always taking care of yourself, just from my perspective, when you're the only one there to see about you, you tend to be more controlling because you got to make sure everything's covered. So, just my perspective. Anyway, and Cynthia alludes to the fact that their mom was kind of that way. Okay, so then of course Iyanla gets on the mom thing. Iyanla deals with the pathology of the thing. So we learned that Cynthia and Malorie's mom came from out of two abusive relationships. Even her own father was abusive, beat them when they didn't pick enough cotton. Her mom was abused in front of her. So Cynthia and Malorie's great grandmother, or their grandmother. And we find out that even their great grandmother had the same pattern. So it just kind of moved down through the family. And Iyanla said something very poignant to Madison after they were all sitting around as a family and talking towards the end. And she was telling them, after the mom said, I didn't share with you guys how I felt. We didn't talk about the fact that I was abused. Like, it happened, and she never shared with the girls what was going on. So they had to make up stories in their own mind about what was really happening, like what was going on with their mom and their dad in the situation. For Cynthia, she took it on like her mom was weak, and I got to step up to the plate to take care of my sister if we plan on getting out of this thing alive. Malorie didn't say much at this moment. Cynthia kind of took over the reins and talking to her mom. But Madison said she didn't know any of it. And Iyanla said, this is why we must open communication. This is how we're going to stop the pathology of women who accept men in their lives or others in their lives who mistreat them or who don't treat them as they should be treated. Whether it's verbal abuse, physical abuse, manipulation, whatever. This is how you're going to stop her from picking the same type of individual. And this is how you're going to, if she does pick that type of individual, this is how you're going to rally around her and say, we know you can get out of this, and become a village around her, is keeping those lines of communication open. You can come talk to us. You can depend on us to share and hear you out. I thought it was a valid point. But the turning point for Malorie was when, after she did the bucket challenge and she sat down and they brought Cynthia in, and Malorie had this moment after Iyanla had told her for the final time to stop bringing this man up. Let's talk about you. What are you doing? How are you falling short? And just got real with her. This dude who you done laid next to, who you raised the child with, who you have a home with, will not talk to you, will not speak to you, will not acknowledge you. That has got to her. She says to her, what are you denying? Because he certainly is denying you. And that's when we saw she started to break and cry. I'm telling you, that mirror and hearing it out loud for what it is, for the stinking, rotten, dead fish that it is, will break you every time. It'll either break you and bring you to this place where you can realize it and heal from it, or it's going to be incendiary, meaning it's going to set you ablaze. Some people get funky with it when they hear the truth. They do anything they can not to hear it, not to deal with it. But when you're really ready, okay, you see it for what it is, call a thing. She began crying. Cynthia went right in to hold her up, hold her sister up. And Iyanla said, let her go, let her sit in it, let her sit with it. And you could tell Cynthia didn't really want to do that. She felt like, this is my sister, I'm not going to sit next to her and not comfort her. Well, she put the hand on the heart. I don't know what she do, the hand to the heart moment. It's that moment where you feel the weight of that thing, the acknowledgement of it. Like that hand being on your chest represents that ever-present issue. Boom. Tell us about it. Talk about it. What is this? What's happening here? And then she said, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted trying to keep it all together, trying to keep it all afloat, trying to keep it looking good and smelling good and feeling good and everything being well. And then when she left that little place, she moved on a little bit further. And it was then projected towards Cynthia because she feels like her life has been different since she got on the show. She got on the show, I guess, because Cynthia wanted her to be on it. And I don't know if she got a little check from it. I don't know. But anyway, she says she feels like her life has not been the same since she was on the show. So I was like, okay, interesting. And she said people they see her as Cynthia's little sister, which sitting there side by side, I was like, I don't know, because Cynthia did to me seem like the youngest. She looked like the youngest. She seemed like the youngest too, from the way Malorie was approaching situations when she would come on the show. It wasn't until the end when Malorie started to loosen up and lighten up and release some things, I could see a youthful side of her. But prior to that, all of that sort of sternness, sort of compartmentalized, real very, very controlled way of being made her seem older. She also talked about how Cynthia, has her own controlling behaviors in that, again, she considered her mom to be weak. She felt like, and she told her mom this, if you can't take care of you, then how you going to take care of me? So I feel like I had to take care of myself and my sister. And so Malorie said she never had to pick friends in high school. They only 11 months apart, her and Cynthia. She Cynthia would make the friends and say, these are our friends, and Malorie would go along with it. And so, this is the thing that confused me. It seems like you're kind of running roughshod in your relationship, but he's the one with money. But you're also letting your sister control you and kind of run the situation. I don't know. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Tell me how y'all felt about this episode, because I stayed torn. I stayed torn between feeling like Malorie was trying to run this man and trying to be control over everything, the money, the home, the house, and him, and like what he was doing for her wasn't good enough. The daughter said she felt like that she had some issues with being appreciative of how much Chris did for them, like not giving him the credit where it was due in terms of taking care of them and being a good provider. Cynthia says she gets defensive and she runs off. At the same time, we hear that she feels like Cynthia is controlled her as a child. And I understood what she was saying, but even Cynthia felt like, okay, earlier when you was talking to my mom and I, this was she was telling Iyanla, you made it seem like it was my mom's fault. So like now is it mine? She was that's what she was implying. And Iyanla was like, we still haven't talked to the mom. And that was when they all came together to talk about what went on with the mom, Madison's grandma, Malorie, and Cynthia's mother, and how it put Cynthia in this place where she felt like she needed to be more in control of her life and her sister's life and take the motherly role, the matriarch role. The mom said at that point, Cynthia, you're fired from that position. I realize now, forgive me. Not I'm sorry, but forgive me for not sharing, not telling you guys, not preparing you guys, not being the leader in this family. You're fired. I'm going to be the leader now. And even with that, which is another little bit of controlling behavior, Cynthia implied that her mother wouldn't do it because of her age and because Cynthia's always had to do it. And she felt like she didn't take the reins from her mom. She felt like her mom gave the reins over to her. And Iyanla said, and you accept it. She said, yeah, I accept it. And it's at that moment something clicks for her where she realizes, wait. I did accept it. I don't have to accept it anymore. It would be a great relief off of me not to accept it. And Iyanla said, let her fall. Let her fall. Let her stumble. Let her find her way. You don't have to be there to save everybody from everything, which it was a good episode. But like I said, I spent a good deal of the episode torn. Is Malorie, and I guess looking at it from Cynthia's perspective, where she felt like, are you blaming me? But earlier you was blaming my mom. I think right there is where my trouble lies, because I'm always looking for the villain. I'm always looking for the problem, the situation, so that I can rectify it, I can identify it, and then rectify it, and then move on from it. And it's just a little bit more complicated than that. The girl was controlling, but she's also fragile. She's also having to deal with the fact that she really doesn't feel, in a lot of instances, she can say her piece, say how she feels, without other people telling her what she should and shouldn't do about it. Okay? At the same time, when she does get to this place where her back is against the wall, she can be very biting, she can be very cutting. That's the defense mechanism. And I guess ultimately we have to realize that people are fragile. They're both strong and weak. Okay? They have a pretty side and they have an ugly side. Okay? And we all have been affected in one way or another in our lives by our childhood. Whether it was that you were given everything and you have no appreciation for anything now, or you had nothing and you want to hold everything close to you, or you had something in between but you didn't feel like you was given love. Like people come up from childhood on, they bring baggage from here and there, and it's collected, and when you get them or you see them or you meet them, you realize how much they got going on. But your perception also may be, no, she's a bitch, or she's a cold-hearted individual, or she's controlling, or she's a gold digger, and we don't know people's backstory. You, she looks like one thing, she talks like one thing, she acts like another thing, she fights like one thing, she's wounded like another. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's many sides to this thing. There's many sides to this thing. You guys tell me what you think. I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was good. At the end, everybody seemed to embrace what Iyanla brought to the table. The girl is star. She is stellar at it. Some of her earlier shows, I think, have put a bad taste in people's mouth about her because she could have been perceived as abrasive. But the girl know what she's doing. The girl got a gift. I'm not taking that away from her. I'm not. Good episode, y'all. Tell me what you think. Put it down below. Until next time, honeybees. Mwah, mwah, mwah.